Welcome to immigrationquestion.com, your go-to resource for U.S. immigration insights. We provide clear immigration news and information. Our platform provides a network of licensed attorneys who can answer your questions and guide you through the process. From visas to green cards, asylums to citizenships, immigrationquestion.com helps you to network with immigration attorneys so that you can move forward with confidence. Sign up today or download the app. Free registration, limited time offer. Stay tuned. We go live in 30 seconds.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's live webinar brought to you by immigrationquestion.com, a networking platform and meeting ground where immigrants, families, and licensed immigration attorneys engage, learn, and exchange insights on the latest developments in U.S. immigration. My name is GB Satusa, and I'll be your host for today's discussion, Avoiding Delays and Denials in Your Immigration Case. Nothing is more frustrating than waiting months or even years for an immigration decision, only to face unexpected delays or denials. Often, these setbacks are not random. They result from missing evidence, unclear explanations, or evolving policies that shift how officers review applications. Today, we'll explore how to identify potential pitfalls and take strategic steps to avoid them. To help us navigate this critical topic, we are joined by attorney Philip Paradisis, Esquire. Attorney Paradisis is licensed in both Massachusetts, and Ontario, and has extensive experience in securities law, corporate governance, litigation, and immigration law. His strategic approach and diverse legal background equip him to guide clients through complex immigration cases with clarity and confidence. Attorney Paradisis, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Now, before we begin, a quick reminder, immigrationquestion.com is not a law firm and does not provide legal advice, representation, or services. This platform is a public meeting ground where individuals and families can learn about immigration topics and engage with licensed attorneys who participate independently. To our viewers, it's about to get very interesting. Grab your writing pads and pens and share the link with your friends. If you have not subscribed, now is the right time to do so. Just click on the subscribe button and you're all set. Now, let's begin today's discussion. Attorney Paradisis, let's start with the big picture. Based on current USCIS and consular trends, what are the most common reasons immigration applications are getting delayed or denied in 2025?
So what we are seeing right now with respect to delays is that there are delays pretty much across the board. Any type of application you submit, you should expect some form of delay. The reason for that is complex. It's primarily because at this point, the administration is doing more intense background checks on individuals. So that's a general framework that will generally cause longer wait times for applications. With respect to denials, assuming that we're not talking about a case that should never have been filed to begin with, the biggest cause for denials is lack of preparation. In other words, you have to make sure that you qualify very specifically for the application that you are filing with USCIS, and you have to submit a complete and full application. Right now, they are paying more emphasis to applications being complete, making sure people have submitted all the required documents, and if not, they have a lot more discretion right now to deny those cases up front.
All right. So many applicants assume long wait times are just part of the process. How can someone tell the difference between a normal delay and a red flag that something is wrong with their case?
So this is a question that is better suited to a more case-by-case analysis, but I'll try to give kind of a general overview of the process and how you can kind of look at this. So the first thing you have to do, as I said earlier, is prepare. Okay, you have to know what your immigration background is very specifically. How many times have you entered the United States? Were there any previous issues with immigration at any of those times? Did you ever work without authorization in the United States? If you came in as a student, did you attend the school that you said you would attend? And so on. So for people that have multiple entries, that have multiple visits, it's always a good idea before you file anything to get a copy of your full immigration record. You need to know what's in there because immigration will certainly have all of that. Now, once you, and you can get this through what is called the Freedom of Information Act request, otherwise known as a FOIA, and this can be done online, it's free. Okay, so if you search for FOIA, the USCIS, FOIA, State Department, it gives you the instructions for the various agencies how to get your history. That's number one. Now, with that information, you have to determine the exact application that you're going to be applying for. I think the biggest pitfall for people is that they start trying to want to apply to multiple applications at the same time, especially in the employment context. Obviously, if you're married to a US citizen, that's a pretty straightforward application. You know that that's what you qualify for. But I've spoken to many people who say, what about this visa? What about that visa? What about the other visa? And then they start wanting to file everything. And you should not appear desperate to be in the United States. More strategy is needed as opposed to you just trying to file anything and then whatever sticks, sticks. So once that determination has been made, you have to make sure you prepare the forms correctly, follow the instructions, and you have to make sure you submit at a minimum the required documentation, whatever those are. And you should not rush to file without these things in place. Now, once you file, the greatest pitfall is to miss an important deadline. Sometimes USCIS in particular will issue what are called requests for evidence. They want more information on a certain topic, perhaps because they were not satisfied with the document you submitted, perhaps because they feel that more evidence is required. And they set a certain deadline by which they have to receive all of that evidence to move forward with your case. And I can tell you that I've seen many cases where people, for whatever reason, they miss those deadlines. And if that deadline is missed, then the case will most likely get denied.
I think you've covered this briefly, but documentation and evidence are often at the heart of USCIS decisions. So, what are some examples of missing or unclear evidence that tend to trigger requests for evidence, RFEs, or outright denials?
So one problem is a bad quality scan of a document or a bad quality copy of a document. That's something we see a lot. The second issue could be things like birth certificates, marriage certificates, especially if they've been issued in foreign countries. The State Department and USCIS requires that they have very specific formats. And they've literally created a list which you can refer to, and they will tell you who has to issue these documents in the foreign country, what has to be included in that document. And as these countries change the formats of their documents, USCIS updates this as well. So, for example, someone who has a birth certificate that was issued, let's say, in the 1970s, back then, they may have had a very different format, a very different layout, which USCIS will not accept today. So in that case, the individual would have to go back to their local agency in the foreign country and get the current version of the birth certificate, the marriage certificate, death certificates. That's something that we see a lot with respect to evidence. And the third biggest reason for requests for evidence is incomplete applications. People think that by providing a minimum amount of supporting evidence, it's enough to satisfy USCIS. And that brings me once again back to you need to understand exactly what type of application you're filing for, exactly what evidence is needed, how far back you have to go for that particular evidence, especially when dealing with things like bank accounts, employment histories, all of these things, and then sort of strategically decide what you are going to submit to immigration.
Right. So when a case gets stuck in administrative processing or background checks, what practical steps can applicants take to follow up effectively without making things worse or causing further delays?
So number one, the last thing you want to do is to start submitting more evidence, thinking that it's going to make the case move faster. If the agencies have not requested documents, don't submit them. A lot of times, if a case is stuck, either in administrative processing or background checks, USCIS has concerns of some kind with that applicant's background. Other times, it's simply a case where those required backgrounds, especially coming from certain countries, may simply not be completed. Now, how do you resolve this? Generally speaking, what you would do is you would have a look at what are the expected timeframes for USCIS to decide an application. Let's say we're dealing with a marriage-based application. In that case, we would expect right now somewhere between 12 and 15 months from application to interview for the green card. If you're in a situation where you go past that time frame, then you can file what is called a mandamus lawsuit. That is basically a lawsuit that is asking USCIS to issue a decision. And that is filed with a federal court, and it's basically trying to force them to look at the file and issue a decision because they are outside of their normal and stated processing times. Now, the question a lot of people ask, well, won't I upset them if I file a lawsuit? And the answer to that is no. What you're doing is you're not trying to get anybody in trouble. You're not trying to get the agency in any kind of hot water. All you're saying is, Mr. Officer, my file is stuck on your shelf. We are past the processing time. Please have a look at this and give us a decision. Now, that doesn't mean you'll be approved necessarily, but at least a decision will issue much faster than if you just simply wait.
So, from your experience, how much do policy shifts or officer discretion influence case outcomes? And how can applicants or attorneys anticipate these changes before filing?
So, with respect to anticipation, again, it goes back to preparation. You need to know your history. You need to know your case. If you're working with an attorney, make sure you get a copy of everything that was submitted on your behalf. Make sure you review the forms that are being submitted on your behalf. Because sometimes what happens, people go to people that prepare these forms and then they simply sign. Just understand that anytime you sign these documents, and it states it very clearly on the form, you are certifying that you are aware of the contents of the application and that everything that is in the application is true and correct. So it's very important that the applicant is proactive don't just rely on the attorney, don't just rely on the person preparing the forms. Now, with respect to the question about policy shifts and discretion, policy shifts are vitally important, as we're seeing this year. Changes are being made frequently, and these changes can affect people at a very serious level with respect to their eligibility for certain benefits and with respect to what they can actually apply for. So that is very important, and it's a very good idea for people that have filed the case and even those thinking of filing a case to keep an eye on official policy changes. And I say official because don't just rely on everything you read on social media or on what you see, hitting the news. You have to look at official sources, consult an attorney if you're unsure. You need someone to guide you through all of these changing realities. You also asked about discretion. There are certain applications that certainly allow more room for discretion than others. Other applications are more based on facts and whatever the legal requirements of those applications are. Again, discretion can play a little bit of a role in these kinds of cases, but the officer doesn't have full discretion. So in other words, just because he doesn't like you doesn't mean he can deny your case. Discretion really comes on things that are a close call. So let's say there's a situation where it's 50-50 in your favor. That's where the officer's discretion will come in, where he or she might say, okay, yes, it's not 100%, but it's also not fully disqualifying either. We're going to give the applicant the benefit of the doubt. And it will they'll check the box in your favor with respect to that particular application. So it's important to be prepared when you go into the interview. It's important to make sure that you are not giving officers incorrect information. And it's important for applicants to stay out of their own way. Be clear, be direct, be truthful. And as long as you do that, I can tell you from what I've seen all throughout this year, the process works absolutely fine.
Right. So to everyone joining us live on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and other platforms, thank you for tuning in. Whether you're applying for a visa, adjustment of status, or renewal, today's discussion is designed to provide you with practical, actionable insights to minimize delays and avoid denials. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. ImmigrationQuestion.com is a public networking platform where immigrants, professionals, and families can ask questions for free and engage directly with licensed immigration attorneys. Many users may also qualify for a free confidential consultation. We're also proud to share that ImmigrationQuestion.com is a BBB accredited business, reaffirming our commitment to transparency, accountability, and service to immigrant communities across the United States. Now, Attorney Paradisis, with your extensive experience in immigration law, what are your thoughts on how a platform like ImmigrationQuestion.com is helping immigrants and attorneys connect and network more effectively? Pardon me.
I think it plays a very important role. It provides access to important information to people that need it and people that are directly in the process of applying for themselves, for their loved ones, and any other variety of immigration option that there is. So I think arming yourself with the information is extremely important. You need to know what is happening from trusted sources. And I think platforms like immigrationquestion.com bridge that gap for applicants. And I think it's a very important role that is being played.
Thank you for the perspective, Attorney Paradisis. Now, before we move into our live Q&A session, what strategic habits or case preparation steps do you recommend for immigrants and sponsors who want to reduce the risk of delays and strengthen their filings and move through the system more efficiently in 2025?
So I will go back to, I think, probably the theme of what I've been talking about today, and that's preparation. Okay. Um, you want to submit complete and full applications, especially under the current administration. Now is not the time to take things casually. Because I hear it a lot. I'm not worried about it because I have a clean background, so everything should be okay. Yes, for the most part, but you still have to be ready. Be prepared, give them what they want, give them what they're looking for. And from my perspective, at least, I prefer to give more than I think they will need so that I can expedite the time of getting approved. The less information they have, and I'm talking about USCIS, I'm talking about the State Department, if you're filing from abroad, the less information they have, the longer your case is going to take.
Right. If you've just joined us, we've been in an insightful discussion with attorney Philip Paradisis on avoiding delays and denials in your immigration case. We're now moving into our live Q&A session. This is your opportunity to ask questions directly to a licensed immigration attorney. Drop your questions in the chat or call us live at 516-703-3483, and we'll answer as many as possible during this session. Right. First question is I have criminal record since 15 years ago. Can that cause denial even if my papers look fine?
So Mirabel, the short answer to your question is yes, it can. Of course, a lot of this could also depend on the type of criminal record that you have. If you are looking to apply at this time, whether you're applying for a green card, whether you're applying for naturalization, I would work with an attorney. And this holds true for anybody that may have some kind of criminal record in their background. As we've seen, the government right now is even looking at people for simple DUIs and looking for ways to prevent them from getting a green card. So the more serious the criminal situation is, the more help you need. And I encourage you to get that help before you file anything with immigration at this time.
Does paying premium processing stop denials or only speed up my application?
So generally speaking, premium processing is available for certain applications. But for those applications where it is available, it does not stop denials. The only thing that a premium processing will do is it will speed up the time that it will take USCIS to make a decision. So Damien has a question in the chat. If I can quickly address that.
Yes. Does paying premium processing stop denials or only speed up my application?
So Blessing, I think we just covered that, but the answer is it only speeds up the application.
I can see that. Our next question. All right, here's the next question. I used a not experienced lawyer before and my case became stuck. Can I get a new lawyer to reopen and fix it faster?
So Helen, when you say fix it faster, I'm not exactly sure what that means. But yes, if there was a problem with a case, if something was not done correctly by the previous attorney, you should get an opinion, a second opinion from someone to see what, if anything, can be done to fix the situation. Faster is relative. It will all depend on the case, where it is, what stage it's at, and what the processing and other time frames are for USCIS.
Right. Next question. All right. My sis has been waiting green card for more than 2 years now. Is that normal, or does it mean she was denied?
So first of all, it does not mean that the case was denied. What we would need to know is this a case where the green card is going to be obtained at the embassy abroad? Is this a case that is happening within the US? And what type of case is it? Is it one based on marriage? Is it an employment case? Is it some other type of application that leads to a green card? All of that can affect the timeline and the time frame. Now, 2 years is getting a little bit on the long side for most applications, generally speaking. So I would encourage you to consult with an immigration attorney if you don't already have one, to have a look and see what can be done.
All right, so that was our last question. Thank you so much, Attorney Philip Paradisis, for sharing your expertise and providing clear, actionable guidance today. Your insights have helped applicants understand how to strengthen their filings and navigate a complex immigration system with confidence. And to all our viewers, thank you for joining us. We hope today's webinar empowers you to approach your immigration case with strategy, clarity, and patience. Remember, you can always visit immigrationquestion.com to ask your immigration questions for free and engage directly with licensed attorneys. Many users may also qualify for a free confidential consultation. If you'd like to revisit today's webinar or share it with colleagues, the full replay will soon be available on Spotify. Search Borderless Talk by immigrationquestion.com. Join us again next week for another live session exploring immigration topics that matter most to you, from family petitions and humanitarian relief to employment visas and case preparation strategies. Once again, thank you, Attorney Philip Paradisis, and thank you to everyone watching.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time.
It's been a pleasure being with you all today. And if any of the viewers would like to have a conversation with me, I'm happy to speak with them. And the law firm is called the Nomos Law Group. They can just give me a call, mention that you were on the show, and I'll be happy to have a consultation with you and discuss your matter. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Attorney. Until next time, stay informed, stay prepared, and stay connected.